Have you ever wanted something really, really badly? Hi kids, I'm Auntie Mila. I'm so glad you joined me today. Our verse is Psalm 33, verse 5, and it says, "The earth is full of the goodness of the Lord." The earth is full of the goodness of the Lord. Our story today is Jungle Racehorse. That's why I'm wearing a fancy hat, because when they go to races, they wear fancy hats. They get dressed up really big. This hat is from Grandma. Look, isn't it beautiful? It's an old hat. I love it. I think it is so pretty. Years ago, they used to wear hats. The ladies used to wear all kinds of hats and bonnets and everything. They don't wear hats too much nowadays, but I think this is beautiful with a big bow here. Well, I have a story for you about Debbie and the Jungle Racehorse. Debbie was just a young girl. She was in about the 7th grade, and she lived in Borneo. Do you know where Borneo is? That's way across the ocean. It's actually the 3rd largest island in the world. She lived in Sarawak. That was the part of Borneo that she lived in. Her dad and mom worked at the Aramana school there, a Christian school. One day, Debbie came to her daddy and said, "Daddy, do you know what I want for my birthday?" And he said, "No, I want a horse." And her daddy said, "A horse?" She said, "Yes." He said, "Do you know anything about a horse?" "Oh, yes," she said, "and how to take care of a horse." And her daddy said, "Well, what would you do with a horse?" "Well, I would take care of it. I would feed it. I would comb it and brush it, and I would ride it." Daddy said, "Well, have you ever seen a horse in Borneo?" She says, "No, but I still want a horse." And Daddy said, So Daddy was thinking. So then Debbie went to the kitchen and said, "Mom, I want a horse." Mom said, "A horse?" Mom said, "There are no horses in Borneo. There are water buffaloes and gibbons." And she said, "Well, you have a pet gibbon." And Debbie said, "Yes, but I want a horse." Well, days went by, and she came to her daddy again and said, "Daddy, I want a horse. I really want a horse." And so a few days later, they'd be eating their lunch, and she'd say, "I want a horse so badly." And Mom and Dad didn't know what to do because they hadn't seen any horses in Borneo. Well, I got a letter from Roseanne, and she's taking riding lessons. And Daddy said, "Yes, but that's Singapore. That's not Borneo." And Janice rode a horse in Texas last summer when they were home on furlough. And so she rode a horse. Janice was her best friend that didn't live very far from Debbie. And Daddy said, "Well, that's Texas. They have lots of horses there." One day, Debbie and Janice's mom and Debbie's mom went to town. And they were shopping around. And as they were at this agricultural station buying papayas, they heard a horse. Like that. And they said, "Is there a horse here?" They said, "Oh, yeah, we have a horse." "Well, where is it?" "Oh, it's up over there in the barn." And they went over and they looked and looked and looked and they couldn't find it. But the next time they were back there shopping, they said, "Well, where is that horse?" And they got better directions. And so they went up there and they looked and they saw a horse sticking his head out a little window. And Debbie said, "A horse!" And Janice said, "A horse!" And so they walked around, and Janice's mom peeked over into the pen where it was, and then she gasped, She said, "What's the matter?" And so Debbie's mom looked over and she went, And Debbie said, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" And she climbed up and peeked over. The poor horse was skin and bones. Skinny, skinny, skinny horse. Whoever was taking care of it was really neglecting the horse. It was just like skin was just barely over the bones. And they said, oh, the poor horse, it's so skinny. So they picked some grass and they gave it to the horse. The horse liked that. So they went home and Debbie said, Daddy, guess what? We found a horse. He said, you did? In Borneo? Yes, we found a horse. Can I have it? Well, Daddy said, is it for sale? I don't know. Well, a week or so later, Debbie's mom was back there again, and they said, do you want to sell your horse? And the man said, do you want the horse? She said, well, yes, we're from the Ayarmana school. And he said, you can have the horse. And they got so excited. So they went home and told Daddy. They said, the man will just give us the horse. We don't even have to buy it. And Daddy said, really? So Daddy reached in his pocket and took out some money. He said, here's some bus money. You go and get the horse. They said, oh, yes! Debbie and Janice were so excited. They were jumping up and down, squealing for joy. We get a horse, we get a horse. So they went and they got on the bus with their money and they rode 3 miles to the horse. And they went there and the man was there. He says, oh yeah, you can have the horse. And he led the horse out and gave them the rope. And they started walking with the horse. And the horse was really skinny. They said, oh my, what should we call the horse? And they were thinking names all the way home. And Debbie tried to get on the horse to ride it, and the horse just lay down. The horse did not have the strength to carry Debbie. And so then they would have to work and work to get the horse up, and a car would come by on the road and scare the horse, and they would say, shh. They're trying to tell the car to be quiet. So they got the horse up again. And then they got the horse up and they started walking. And Janice was on one side of the horse and Debbie was on the other side. And they were with both ropes and they were walking the horse along, encouraging the horse, come on, you can make it, come on, come on. And then a big truck of soldiers came by and they started whooping and whistling and they said, shh. And then the soldiers knew that they needed to be quiet because it would scare the horse. And so they kept plodding along, pulling the horse. And after all afternoon working, they finally got home. And they were so hot and tired, but they got the horse. And they took the horse to Debbie's house. And Debbie's mom came out and went, you made it. And when Daddy came home from work, he said, oh my, that is one skinny horse. And Debbie said, yeah, I know. But you know what? They gave the horse some water to drink and some oats. And they let the horse eat the grass. And it wasn't very long till the horse started gaining weight. And the horse looked beautiful. And they would brush the horse out. One thing the horse had was a long tail that went way down to the floor, the ground, and they would brush it. And Janice and Debbie loved taking care of that horse so much. They babied the horse. The horse would eat the chicken's food, and then they would get on the horse and they would ride the horse. And you know, all the students in the school, only 2 kids had ever seen a horse before. They came and said, is this a horse? And they said yes, and so they took rides. And when they would go out riding, and if the kids started clapping, yay! The horse really started galloping. And I thought, oh, that's strange. I wonder why. Every time the kids would cheer, the horse would really break out into a run. Well, one day, a visitor came to the school and was looking around. He said, I know that horse. That is a racehorse. And Debbie said, a racehorse? He says, yes. It used to be our horse. You see, we brought 4 horses from Australia because we were going to have horse races here in Borneo. And that horse came from Australia. And Debbie said, that's why when kids would cheer and clap, the horse just would step on a gallop and take off. It was a racehorse. Well, you know, Debbie really enjoyed the horse. Janice enjoyed the horse. They took turns riding the horse. And they gave the kids at the school rides. And the horse munched, 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 kept the grass cut down, because in Borneo it's the tropics and things grow really good because there's lots of rain. And the horse munched, 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 munched grass, and the horse became the pet of the whole school. Isn't that nice? Debbie got a horse. God was so good to give Debbie a horse. Debbie really wanted a horse, and so she decided she was going to pray about it. And that's just what she did. She prayed for a horse. She said, Jesus, please, I want a horse so badly. And you know what? God heard her prayer. She got a horse and she named him Duke. I went to school with Debbie, so I know Debbie. And Debbie's big sister, Cheryl, was one of my best friends. In fact, we were roommates in college when we went to school there. Thank you so much for joining. I want to have prayer. Dearest Jesus, thank you so much for giving Debbie the desires of her heart. Thank you for giving her a horse. Lord, thank you for always being so good to us. We love you. For Jesus' sake, amen. I have a website if you want to write to me. Yes, I would love to hear from you.